This is Paleo Parents Part 2. Now, one thing I don't typically do with beg and admonish that you watch, except this time. If you have kids, if you're going to have kids, if you know any kids, watch this video. Pass it on to people, please. You'll want to see this.
Cole inherited, he's 6 years old. He just turned 6 years old on Thursday. He unfortunately inherited a lot of the worst tendencies of Stacy and I. He has the tendency to put on weight that Stacy has, and he is also very short, like I was when I was a kid. So he ended up at his 5-year checkup being off the scale in terms of a BMI, like well off the scale. Like I looked at this chart, and the doctor showed me, like, here's the normal range for a kid his size, and here's where he is. And she pointed, 3 inches up the chart, practically. And this is a chart that's only 2 inches long. I was shocked. It never really even occurred to me that Cole was an obese kid. And it also didn't occur to me at the time that his significant behavioral issues could possibly be related to his diet.
Sure.
At 4 years old, halfway through his 4-year-old preschool class, the director of the school had a serious conversation with me about possibly having him leave the school for being too aggressive, too rough with other children. Not that he was a bad kid, he just literally did not know how to control his body and what that meant for other children. And he also had serious attention span issues. He couldn't sit still and listen to stories. He couldn't do any of that. And after this meeting that I had with the director of the school, I was really distraught. Like, I didn't know what we were going to do with this kid. And we worked really hard with him. But amazingly enough, we noticed behavioral improvements first with him. And he...
within a week.
Within a week of us, saying, okay, kids, no more...
No more sugar, no more junk,
Exactly.
Yeah.
He all of a sudden seemed to be much more in control, like much less aggressive, wasn't putting his hands on people, wasn't doing any of that stuff, could sit down and listen to stories, all of that stuff. Yeah, it was quite amazing to me. And I was like, well, if this is working for him, we're going to stick to this, because we told him 10 days.
Yeah, it was 14 days, I think.
14 days.
And even at that, we weren't even doing it like 100% paleo clean. I mean, there were some transition foods that we used that we don't eat anymore. We got some gluten-free kind of kid snacks, and just moderated that in the beginning so he could still pack a lunch and do all that kind of stuff. But so he went from being in the middle of his 4-year grade to being almost kicked out of the preschool. And I want to be clear, this is not like a regular kind of daycare preschool. This is
very hippy-dippy preschool.
Yes, we call it a hippy-dippy preschool. It's like a what's called a co-op preschool where the parents are involved.
So they can go barefoot there if they want to.
Yeah, you can go barefoot, and the children are pretty much like hog wild crazy there. And so for our kid
and he was a behavior problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, that was a huge, kind of wake up for us. And then when I went to back to school,
whoa, man, he's like tripping us out, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And or tied my T-shirt telling me that my son has issues was a shock. So when I went to back to school night, and I actually went without Matt, he stayed home with the baby, and I took Cole to back to school night in kindergarten, which actually is 6 weeks after school has begun. The kindergarten teacher, pulled me aside to tell me that Cole is the most wonderful child in her class, that she's never had any kindergartner sit so still and be so attentive, and what good intentions he has, how well he just on and on and on. I was like, are you talking about my kid? I literally said, are you talking about my kid? And as the year went on,
that kind of a story can make you emotional because it is so critical. Particularly when you have your kids in school, socialize with other people, how they get set up early and how they get perceived by others early. Absolutely. Okay, so the middle child, what's his name?
And if I
old is he?
Could add, Richard, he has essentially kept his weight the same as that 5-year checkup, but grown some 5 or 6 inches. So he is well back on the chart. And that's no longer an issue or concern for us.
The middle child is actually probably what I would say our most traumatic story. It's nearly impossible to diagnose a 3-year-old with attention deficit disorder, let alone a 2-year-old. Matt's family history is that he and his 3 brothers all had ADD or ADHD of some kind, at the very least, the special school kind of kids. And we were kind of always watching it in our younger kids, who's going to show signs first. And it was just kind of an inevitable problem that we were bracing for. And we knew that Finn was the most dynamic of our kids. We knew that his peaks and valleys are the most drastic. He's the most loving and energetic, fun person to be around when he's having a high. And he is the most melodramatic, awful terror when he's having a low. And
he loves you or he hates you. That's me, actually.
Yeah. With a whole lot of screaming and crying and whining in the middle.
Yep.
So at his 2-year checkup, the doctor, the pediatrician, actually mentioned to us that it was something that we should brace ourselves for, it was inevitable pretty much. And they don't even do that until 1st or 2nd grade, I think, is the official diagnosis. So we're talking 7 years old. He's 2 years old at the time, and she's telling us it's going to be a problem. And with him, the same with Cole. Within 1 week of removing all the junk out of the house, he became not a different kid, because he's still, the peaks and the valleys, but it's
passionate.
It's fun,
it's passion.
Yeah.
And now, the thing is, you want the passion. You just want it directed properly.
Yeah, that's the thing. Before it was a hole in the wall kind of passion, and now it's Finn, go jump on the trampoline, and he'll go out there for an hour and do somersaults and come in so proud of himself, and it's a whole different kid. And so when we took him to his 3-month checkup in March, 3-year checkup in March, we asked the doctor, after having spent some time with him and doing the review, we say, we've seen some changes in his behavior. What are you noticing? No, it's not a problem. It's it doesn't even exist anymore, the warning signs that she saw. And so, again, like you said, I think we cut it off at the pass, removing, I think it's not just about paleo food. I think it's also, what people kind of skip over in the paleo community or primal community or whatever you're talking about. It's, people say it's no grains, no legumes, no sugar. But we really try to, when we're giving our elevator speech to people, we say that we remove processed foods. To us, that includes grains, that includes sugar.
Big thumbs up right there. That is the elevator speech, right? Crap in a box. Okay, let's get on to the 3rd child. His name and his age.
It's Wesley. He is about to turn 16 months. So he's the paleo baby. When he was born, we all Stacy switched over. We all switched over soon after. So he's
paleo
never had
from day one. He never knew. He never knew a day of eating junk food. That's amazing, really. That's quite a legacy.
I really wish I would have found it earlier and had paleo pregnancies. I can't imagine how amazing that would have been, because having a paleo baby is the easiest, most awesome thing in the world. So
never had any the problems that newborns, the problems. Newborns aren't problems; they're they're babies. But he's never had any of the issues that people tend to have.
Do you have anything in mind to contrast your experience, say with your first son? In the first few months versus your latest one, where you were already paleo.
Yeah, our first 2 babies had colic. They had diaper rash. They had gas. They had eczema, peely skin, baby acne, basic stuff that the pediatricians tell you
is normal.
Because everybody eats the same shit, right?
Yes, exactly. Nobody's coming in paleo. That's why this is normal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So contrast that then with your paleo baby.
Yeah. So Wes slept through the night at 3 weeks old.
3 weeks old.
He slept through the night. he sometimes would get up to nurse once or twice, but he would sleep entirely, which is shocking. No babies ever did that before.
We never had one sleepless night where he just wouldn't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Always would go back to sleep.
Matt had gotten professional at what we called the gas hold, where you kind of put the baby upside down on your forearm and whack their back as hard as you can and try to get the gas out. I never saw Matt do that once with Wes.
Never had to.
Never had diaper rash. Never had any baby acne, peeling skin, nothing. I mean, he's like, you look at him and he looks like a cherub. He's ear to ear grin all the time. He's just the happiest baby you ever saw. I mean, probably because he doesn't have gas and he's sleeping good, you know?
He's like a perfect little human animal.
He is, yes. He's a mini human, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to cry. No, it's so awesome. I mean, you know, there's so much to talk about, and there's so much going on with people, you know, grasping this. You two are. It's got to be the most amazing. You know, I've been doing this for a long time.
Thanks.
This is the most amazing story. It's a family. I mean, it's so awesome, and you have done it with not just yourselves. You have done it. You have improved the lives of your 3 children. Well, actually, you improved the lives of 2 children, and then you started off totally right with a 3rd one, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think like what is also important, I want to reiterate as a parent is, you know, not just what I've given to them for their health, but when I come home from work and I want to play, you know, when I walk through that door and I pick them up and I put them above my head and I tickle them and we chase each other around the house, like I didn't do that before. And that's something that, you know, as a parent of young kids, I always wished that I could do or wanted the desire to do. But rather, when I came through the door, I would slump on the sofa and just say, oh, I just need some time to relax. And then try to skate my way through the night before I could tuck them in their beds, you know. And now, you know, the kids, they just beg to stay up late. They beg me to tuck them. They sleep in loft beds, and I couldn't tuck them before because I weighed too much. And now every single night they scream and cry if I won't tuck them in bed because it's special that mommy can climb in bed and tuck them. So, you know, it's impossible to put value on that stuff. It's not about weight loss. It's about like literally adding value to the family.
That's a great point, Stacy, because you know, my interview series has primarily been about weight loss, and of course it was, of course, your 200 pounds between the two of you that initially attracted me to the story. But what really got me was the whole family aspect and how, you know, your paleo parents, but there's this whole family, and you have not only changed and transformed your own lives for the better, but you have totally transformed 2 kids' lives and set another off on the right path. Now I have to close now, but you know, this is Free the Animal. All right, so and I always have to ask, and you can be as explicit as I want to be. Has this improved the sex life at all?
I mean, it would be hard not to. I think Matt and I were talking about last night how we were going to answer this question. We decided we were going to say that we're just thankful that I can't have any more kids because we definitely would have had another kid by this point, if not. So.
Oh, well, that's a good way to answer it.
And I have to say, like, you know, I essentially have a new wife that I didn't have before, you know, who is even more beautiful than the day that I met her.
Thanks. It doesn't get old. Every time I get dressed, Matt's like, you look really hot today. You shouldn't go to work. I'm like, get off of me, you know.
Is that cool or what?
What did I tell you? You know what to do. Thumbs up on YouTube. Post it on Google+. Post it on your Facebook. Share it. Tweet it. Email it around. It's for the children. And for once, that's not bullshit.